right, we're in church. All right, turn to Acts chapter 16. Acts chapter 16, verse 22. There is, Paul and Silas have started a little bit of just a ruckus, and now a mob has quickly formed, and it says against Paul and Silas. And the city officials ordered them stripped and beaten with wooden rods. This is a bad day. Okay, everyone. Right? That's a bad day. Stripped and beaten with wooden rods. Okay, I don't know. I don't want to work where you guys work. If you're like, it's okay. It's just a regular Thursday. They were severely beaten, meaning like this was like close to life-threatening. And then they were thrown into prison. The jailer was ordered to make sure that they didn't escape. So the jailer then put them into the inner dungeon. This is like you can't get out of this. And then they clamp their feet in the stocks. And around midnight, a lot of us have heard this verse in verse 25. Around midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening. And suddenly there was a massive earthquake, and the prison was shaken to its foundations. I mean, it's like a big earthquake, and all the doors immediately flew open, and the chains of every prisoner fell off. Wow! Okay, maybe I'm the only one excited about that. Come on, people. This is pretty cool. I mean, for those of you who've ever been in prison, when the door opens, oh, no one's been in prison too. Okay, we got a really good church. Okay, the jailer woke up to see the prison doors wide open. He assumed the prisoners had escaped, so he drew his sword to kill himself. But Paul shouted to him, "Stop, don't kill yourself. We are all here." And the jailer called for lights and ran to the dungeon, fell trembling before Paul and Silas. Then he brought them out and asked, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" They replied, "Believe in the Lord Jesus and you will be saved, along with everyone in your household." Awesome. It wasn't just for him. It was for everybody in his family. I like that. And then they shared the word of the Lord with him and with all who lived in his household. And as I was reading through this story, I've heard this story preached a lot, and maybe this might be new for some of you, and that's awesome. But I've heard this a lot. And most of the time when I've heard this preach, the climax of the story, the thing that's the most important that's talked about is, may you worship when you're in prison. When you do that, man, God's going to open up so many new things for you. There's going to be an earthquake in your life, and the doors are going to be open, and man, it's going to be, and that's awesome. I love that. But there's a bunch of different things that are happening in this story. Not just the one that you easily see. And so I'm asking all of us, let's dive just a little deeper into this understanding, because we've titled this whole sermon series that we're going to talk about in January, "Never Walk Alone." Because it's so important that we understand about having not only God walking with us, but people in our life as we're walking forward. And so as I was reading through this, the first thought that I had as I was reading through this story was, when you get squeezed, what's on the inside comes out. When you get squeezed, what's on the inside comes out. My son loves these little squeezy bottle things of fruit. It looks a little weird because they have all the pictures of, like, apples and bananas and all this kind of stuff, but then it's just like in a pouch, and the pouch stays for a long time. So it's weird to me that like there's fruit in there, but it's all, they say it's fine and it's organic, so it's fine. And so he will pop off the top of that thing, and he will like just clamp onto it, and just you'll see his cheeks just like because he just takes it all in real quick, and then he's throws it away, and he's kind of getting a little more like a Viking, like where he like sucks it all down and then give me another. He's just like, that's where he's getting, he's getting all boy, and I love it. But sometimes he gets a little too rambunctious, and he'll fire it off before he gets it in his mouth, and then, you know what I'm talking about, because he likes the idea of like, okay, hey, when I put on outside pressure, what's on the inside comes up. This is what happens in life. When you get outside pressure, what's on the inside comes out. That's why parents, you can't hide when your kids start acting a fool. we all see what comes out. You can try to hide it, but the more pressure, I know, because what's on the inside comes out. See, there's no pressure on Sunday morning. Y'all come in here all cute, smiling. You smell good. Oh, praise the Lord. No pressure. When there's no pressure, you get to be all nice. But let us see you at your job. Right? And it got all quiet. Let me see you at Christmas with the family. Let me see you with the friends that get on your last nerve. Let me see you when you're in that situation when you can't pay bills and you're like, I don't know what we're going to do. And your marriage is already feeling like it's hard. And now you have a financial struggle with it. That's the pressure, what's on the inside. And so here's the good news, though, is that when you start having this kind of pressure, it does refine what's on the inside, and it can refine what's on the inside. That's why good, powerful worship is not made of pretty words. It's made within prison walls. It's good, powerful worship is not when you have a good lyric that you sing. And he holds my hand. No, when you're going through your worst day, and in tears, and where you can hardly say the words, and you say it, he holds my hand. That's real worship. Because the pressure starts, and then all of a sudden, it's not a pretty word that you sing. It's a desperation cry to the presence of God. And that's why real worship isn't about your feelings, it's about faith. Because when you're severely beaten in a prison, that doesn't sound like a good worship time. See, we got it like perfect when you walk in here. We got like nice temperature, comfy chairs for your bottom, right? Good sound system, lights where you can see everybody. We have an amazing worship team that they don't stink. Like, they're like good. Like, they can, like all those singers, man, they can rip it. I mean, they're just, like the whole deal. Like, they're good. It's all nice. It sounds nice. All that. So that's kind of like easy to worship. Well, what about when like you've been beaten and like you hurt and it hurts to breathe because you got so many shots to your lungs. And now you're singing a worship song. Well, there's a difference there because now it's not about feeling, it's about faith. I'm singing I'm singing something that I don't feel yet. That's why it's so important not to attach worship to a song. That's why it's so important to attach worship to faith. That sometimes when you feel the worst, that's when you need to be in this room. Right? We don't need you coming in here looking pretty. That's not helping nobody. In fact, though, we like you when you come in pretty and looking nice. That's fine. But you know what? We know, every one of us know that when you're coming in feeling like I got a bad attitude, I feel like nothing's going right in my life, I feel like I'm on my last nerve with everybody, that's when you need to be in here, and that's when you need to sing the loudest, and that's when you need to be in the front, not the back, and that's when you got to say to your feelings, I don't care what you feel, you're not running me, my faith is running me, and so I'm going to sing when I don't feel like it, I'm going to pray when I don't feel like it, I'm going to read my Bible when I don't feel like it. I'm not being run by my feelings anymore. I'm going to be running by my faith. And faith is what it takes to see God move in your life, not feelings. God doesn't move by your feelings. He's moved by your faith. So when you sing in that room that feels like it's so much pain, that's when God starts moving. I said pain and spit flew out here. I'm so sorry. I'm just really well hydrated right now. There's these moments that we've got to understand that these make real powerful worship. It helps you to know that you're not singing alone. Never walk alone. Paul and Silas. Who is your prison buddy? Right? You need a prison buddy. Don't call him that. It sounds weird. but in your worst, who do you call? When you feel beaten, who do you talk to? And please don't have somebody commiserate with you. And that's the only person you talk to. You need somebody who sings with you or encourages you to sing. How about if we don't know who started the singing. Maybe Paul was just sitting here saying, man, I've been beat so many times. This stinks. And I'm naked. This is horrible. It's cold. I'm in the stock. Then all of a sudden they hear, you know my name. Shut up, Silas. You know, Silas, shut up. Oh, how you. And all of a sudden, Paul, walk with me. So you got to have people in your life that remind you to sing when it hurts. You got to have a prison buddy. This is why, listen, do you know, this is why connect groups aren't a nicety. They're a necessity. This is why you need to be, for those of you who are like, well, we just come to church and that's our thing and da-da-da-da-da. Listen, that's why when you get in really hard situations, you feel alone. Because you don't have somebody with you that you can talk through. I'm not saying you don't have, you got to have somebody that you can sing when you're hurt with. I'm not asking you to, who do you go see a movie with? Who do you hang with? No, that's nice and wonderful, but who do you talk to when you feel like your soul is broken? Well, I don't have anybody like that. Let's say in 2020, let's not pout. In 2020, let's say we're not going to pout. We're going to hold up our head and say, if you want to have friends, be friendly. Say that. I said that really nice. I wasn't being mean with that one. If you want to have friends, be friendly. You have all the friends you need. You'll have more than enough. You'll be like, please get off me, people. Just because you're friendly. So talk first. Don't expect to be talked to. Ask questions. Just don't talk about yourself. All right, I can't keep going on with all that. All right, so you get through this when you have somebody with you. And it helps you so you don't develop a victim mentality. Because here's the thing, we choose to have a worship mentality or we can choose to have a victim mentality. And we got to understand the difference between those. Victim mentality, what they say is they start blaming everybody. They blame God. They say, well, it's your fault. Don't you even care about me? Or they blame themselves and they say, well, it's karma. I've done this, and they walk around with their head down and just feeling like they're in spiritual timeout for so many times because they did some wrong things, and that's why I understand taking personal responsibility, but shaming yourself and hating yourself and saying that you've done these things over and over again is not going to help you move forward. Shame never helps you move positively forward. So you need to get over yourself and stop making it up about yourself and start saying, God's forgiven me, so I'm going to forgive myself, and I'm done with that, and so I'm now going to walk forward. That is getting out of victim mentality instead of living in your own filth and thinking, well, I just did this to myself, and I'm just going to stay here forever. Oh, stop. We don't need to hear a pity party. We need you to open up your life to who God is and realize that He's forgiven you so you can forgive yourself and move forward. And then also stop blaming other people. Well, it's my boss's fault. It's my parents' fault. It's my wife's fault. It's my husband's fault. It's my upbringing's fault. It's this person's fault. It's the person who was driving next to me's fault. It was this person's fault. Listen, stop blaming everybody else because you are giving away control to change your life. Because you're giving it to everybody else. Because you say it's their fault, so I can't change. I'm just a responder. No, you're not. You're not a responder. You just don't respond to things. You can positively move forward no matter who does what to you. And I would also say, too, stop letting your emotions and your personality and the way that you act be dictated by how somebody else acts. Well, they didn't forgive me, so. Well, they said this to me, and so I'm just gonna. Come on. Forgive them, move on. You don't have power over me. I'm moving forward. Great 2020 thing. Just say, hey, I'm not going to let people have power over me anymore. They do dumb stuff, I forgive them right now. Oh, dumb thing, forgive you. Said a mean thing, forgive you. Just don't let, just let yourself be rubber. Just stop taking it all in. And stop letting people dictate the way that you grow and the way that you change. Because in verse 25, it said that Paul and Silas were singing, and as they were singing and praying, the other prisoners were listening. You don't know who's listening to your life. But I'll tell you this, people listen when you show them your best example in your worst circumstance. That's when people really listen. People don't listen when you show them your best example in your best circumstance. Oh, everything's good. Everything's great. Look at my Instagram. Oh, it's amazing. Look at this. People don't listen to that. They're like, I don't want to hear that. People also don't listen to when you're just always talking about, and you have your worst example in your worst circumstance, and you're just down all the time, and everything's wrong, and everybody has peed in your Cheerios, and it's the worst thing ever, and I can't take this anymore, and my job is this, and my family's this, and oh my goodness. People don't listen to that either. But people will definitely listen to you when you are in your worst circumstance, but you're showing your best example. Oh my gosh, that stops people. They're like, they just got beat. Why are they singing? This is weird. We're in jail. They should be like yelling and cursing. They're not. Because people listen to that. That's why it was one of my favorite quotes of all time. It says, preach the gospel at all times. If necessary, use words. I love that. Translation means let your life be louder than what you say. I try to do this. I try to do this good. My wife is awesome at this. I am always running to catch up to her. I get a little grumpy sometimes. No one else gets grumpy? Okay, you all are perfect. I'll just sit on the couch and tell you, I get a little grumpy sometimes. Jess calls me out on it all the time. She's like, why are you huffing? I'm not huffing. Oh, yes, you are. No, I'm not. You're huffing. They're huffing. Everyone's huffing. I'm not huffing. Just a little grumpy. So I was doing this a couple of weeks ago. I was going to church. I was a little late coming here on Sunday morning, and so I was just a little bit of the speed limit, just a teensy. And I'm going, and I'm just straight on, like, hey, I got to get to church. I got to get to church. And there's somebody in the left-hand lane, and I'm coming up on them. And I'm like, they're going to get over to the right. They're going to get the right. They're going to get the right. No, they're not. No, well, what is wrong with that? What? And I'm starting to grip the wheel and just, what is wrong with people? Oh, and I yank over to the right hand, and I just go by, and I'm just thinking, well, and I pass over just grumpy, and just heading to church, praying as I'm grumpy, and is going, and then as I'm just, so I'm still in the right hand, just going, and then all of a sudden I see that person still in the left speed up, and I'm like, have they ever heard of the cruise? I'm just starting to get so annoyed. I have no reason to be annoyed, but I'm getting annoyed. Just sitting here like this, and then they speed up, they get right next to me, and I look over, and it's Clayton, who goes to our church, looks at me and goes, God help me! I'm so sorry. I'm just driving. I'm the grumpiest. Oh, Lord. And I'm just thinking the Lord is looking at me. Yeah, you are grumpy. Wrong with you. And I'm trying to get my life right, in my heart. Then I look at my wife. We just had this conversation just yesterday. She was like, I was in the Starbucks lane, and we were just driving, and it was a long, long line. You know, I just pulled up when I was ordering my drink, and I was like, ladies, you are doing an awesome job. Everybody's getting their drinks. They all love it. They love that Starbucks is here, and I'm so thankful that you guys are doing what you're doing. You guys are just amazing. And then she gets up to get her drink, and they had a little note that said, you're amazing. This drink's on us. See you. I'm a terrible pastor. People are listening. People are listening. Yesterday we were getting, I was getting vacuums for the floor in here at Best Buy, and I was sitting there, and as I was leaving, I met a couple that goes to our church, and and she was like, I was just sitting there watching you, and I was thinking, I just rewound real quick in my head, was I nice? Was I nice? Was I nice? Was I nice? God, was I nice? Jess is like, you're nice. Sure. It just matters that you can sing a song in your worst. And I'm not saying that you don't have times where you feel bad and where you're working through stuff. But you don't have to lead with your emotion of how terrible everything is. Like, really ask, God, help me to lead with my faith that I'm believing, because something changes, and what happens is there's an earthquake in your circumstance, and you get freedom. But notice what happened. They got freedom, but they stayed. In fact, the jailer and his household, they got saved. They put their trust in the Lord. They put their faith in who Jesus is. Not because they heard Paul and Silas singing hymns when they shouldn't have been. And not because of this wild earthquake that opened up every door and broke every chain. They got saved. He got saved because Paul and Silas stayed when they didn't have to. Let me talk about this just for a second, because I really believe this is the crux of this moment. See, I don't think the biggest miracle is that the earthquake happened. I think the biggest miracle is that Paul and Silas stayed in that prison when they didn't have to. That's a miracle. Because how many of us are just praying, God, just get me out. Just get me out. If you can get me out of this job, if you can get me out of this circumstance, if you can get me out of this financial trouble, if you can get me, and you're just thinking about that day when God gets you out of that, and you're just like, boom, Roadrunner, you're out of there. You're like, woohoo, yeah, look what God did. Look what God did. Oh, yeah, my life is awesome. Wait, why didn't Paul and Silas do that? Why didn't they take off and say, see you, suckers? That's what you do when you worship, in your face. Don't follow me, God will earthquake you. You know, like feeling like, you know, just like a little bit of like, I got unfairly treated, God rescued me, and I'm out of here. Why didn't they do that? Because maybe they understood a real important truth that all of us need to make sure that we have. That God gives us freedom for, not freedom from. God is giving you freedom for someone. God is giving you freedom for someone. But we're asking God to always give us freedom from someone, or from something, or from some jail cell. And maybe God's saying, listen, I'm going to open up this jail, but if you would stay right here, you're going to see the biggest miracle of all. Wow. If you would just stay in somebody's life. Maybe he's giving you a chance to leave from some job, but you don't because you feel like you should stay for somebody at your job. Maybe God has given you freedom in some different area, but you're staying. See, there's power in staying. There's power in staying in a relationship. There's power in staying in a job. There's power in staying in a church. There's power in staying in a marriage. There's power in staying in a place where you don't have to stay, but you stay anyway because your faith is bigger than anybody else could ever actually imagine. And even though God gave you freedom to move out, you're like, I'm staying right here. Don't kill yourself. Don't kill yourself. We're all right here. Do you have the ability to speak into somebody's life and say, do not do that because I'm still right here in your life. Do not walk down that road because I'm still right here in your life. Do not go in that direction because I'm still right here in your life. There are so many people in our city and the surrounding areas that need you in their life, and they need you free, but you're free to stay. They need you free, but you've chosen to stay in their life. And then all of a sudden, they come and say, what do they say? How can I be saved? Who's in your life right now? And they're walking alone. And they need you to stay. And they need you to invite them to church. There are people that are waiting for you to walk with them in this building. There are people that are going to ask you, how do I get saved? Because you stayed in their life. You didn't run when you could. You didn't run to a Christian bubble with your little awesome perfect life and say, wow, look what God gave me freedom from. You actually said, nah, God gave me freedom, but it's freedom for. It's freedom for you, and it's freedom for you, and it's freedom for you, and it's freedom for you. You start understanding this, and then all of a sudden we stop making Christianity another subculture. We make Christianity something that breaks through every cultural barrier. And it's not something that we just run away in our four little walls and think, oh, isn't this nice? But we're staying. We're staying. I remember I had friends that, I remember when I was working at Outback when I was in college. And I had even my boss and different people, man, I was just inviting them to church all the time. They're getting so sick of it. They're like, Ben, we don't go to church. We drink and get really drunk. We don't go to church. And I'm like, they serve communion. That's kind of a little bit of the same. Just come. I was just trying to get them to come. And I was borderline annoyer. But I remember when my boss came with me one Sunday. I remember that he was sitting right next to me 20 years ago, right in Tulsa, Oklahoma, sitting right next to me, head between the knees, trying not to make sounds as he was crying when the pastor was talking about giving your life to Jesus. I remember that moment. I do also remember that I could have just left my shift and gone back to my college, my Christian college, with all of my Christian friends. I do remember that too. And I'm not trying to paint myself as perfect in any stretch of the imagination. I just remember that moment that God gave me freedom for, not freedom from. Jesus, help us be a church that we have freedom for people, not just freedom from situations. This last moment, it's actually in verse 33. It's a really sweet moment. It says, even at that hour of the night, the jailer cared for them and washed their wounds. And then he and everyone in his household were immediately baptized. Wow. Look at this verse, and then the next one. And he brought them into his house and set a meal before them, and he and his entire household rejoiced because they all believed in God. I want us, and let's all stand in this moment. We're going to sing and have a moment with the Lord here that I believe is going to be a shift in so many of our hearts. But I want you to see this, because Paul and Silas stayed, and they got and this jailer and his whole household got saved. But then look what happened. Then they reached back and they cared for all of Paul and Silas' wounds. Your continual healing will happen when you stay in somebody else's life as they need healing. See, this is it's this continuing intricate circle that we've got to understand, that God is looking for healing for Paul and Silas, but he knows their healing is going to come for when this jailer gets healed, but that's not going to happen until they stay when he gives them freedom. So there has to be a moment where you stay and you say, I'm just going to push myself behind for a second, even though I got some stuff that's going on, even though I got some hurts of my own, even though I got some wounds of my own. I'm not going to look at that, but I'm going to just stay right here. And then all of a sudden they get saved, but then what happens is they reach back and say, let me take care of you too. This is how God uses relationships. This is why we don't ever walk alone. This is why it's so important that we understand that God's got everybody's healing on his mind, not just one person. That God's looking, he wants to save the entire world, not just a couple people. The people you work with, the people that you're in constant relationship with, the people that are coming to your mind right now. That's what he's asking for us. And so in this moment, Jesus, we're praying as a church. We're opening up our life as a church to know that we have freedom, and it's freedom for, not freedom from.